they both are on the topics of increasing and decreasing function, but the way you go about answering, okay, needs to be different. Okay, so I want to actually draw this distinction over here so that you can understand how to actually end up presenting your answers. Okay, so let's look at question 1. Okay, it is given that y is equals to 2x squared over x minus 3, and the question gave this qualifier that x is going to be more than 6. All of these are given information, okay, that you can use, okay, to go about answering. Okay, what the question wants you to do is to explain why is it that it is an increasing function. That means that you need to show eventually, okay, that your f prime x is going to be more than 0. So at the end of your answer, you must show this, that your, actually not f prime x, your dy over dx is going to be more than 0, and therefore we conclude that it is an increasing function. Okay, so we need to know the destination, okay, that we're trying to head to. Then we plan out, okay, what is the things that we actually have. So when we're given that y equals to 2x squared over x minus 3, since I need our first derivative, I will do my differentiation. Okay, some of you still don't quite remember your quotient rule very well. Okay, so that one I'll leave it to you to go and remember. Essentially, we keep the bottom, differentiate the top, get 4x, minus, some of you give me plus, keeping the top, differentiate the bottom, followed by bottom square. Okay? So this will actually be 1 mark when you do the differentiation. And then you go about simplifying. So we will have 4x squared minus away 12x minus 2x squared over x minus 3 bracket squared. Okay? Most of you simplify and arrive at this. Okay? You get 2x squared minus 12x over x minus 3 bracket squared. Okay? You can leave your answer in this manner, nothing wrong, provided that you know how to actually go about explaining to say that your dy over dx is going to be more than 0. You cannot anyhow give me randomness telling me that it must be 0 just because you insist that it is going to be. Okay, you insist no use one off, you must really provide the evidence. Alright? Just like when you go to a police station, you insist that you are not the criminal, but then the police will show the evidence, right? Okay, and you also insist that you're the criminal, right? Then how? So we must actually provide the evidence. Okay? So what I would recommend in this case is to continue to factorize the numerator to get 2x bracket x minus 6 over x minus 3 bracket squared. Okay? When you have it in this form, then we recognize 3 different components. Okay? That will piece to us that it is going to be more than 0. Alright? Some of you give me very, very good presentation, which I like and I indicated. Okay? So what you can do is that given that x is more than 6, our very first component is that 2x is going to be more than 12. Because I can times 2 on both sides, which then concludes to us that it must be more than 0. Okay, so that is our very first component. Second component, about x minus 6. Minus 6 on both sides, I will get more than 0. Okay, then for x minus 3 squared, okay, we know that for any x value, as long as you square, it must be positive, otherwise equals to 0. But it cannot be equals to 0 because your x cannot possibly be 3, since we have already said that x is more than 6. So I can clearly state that it is more than 0. Okay? What some of you actually do, is that from x more than 6, you minus 3, give me x minus 3 more than 3, and then you very happily square both sides and tell me that x minus 3 bracket square is more than 9. This is not true. Okay, this is not true. Alright? You cannot square both sides, okay, when it comes to inequality. Why? Alright? Because we know how to draw graphs, right? Okay. What does the x minus 3 bracket square graph look like? Okay. X minus 3 bracket square graph will actually look like this. Okay. When it intersects at one point only. Okay. Is it more than 9? It isn't. Right? Because it is actually sitting heavily on the x-axis itself. The lowest it can go to, the minimum point, is actually at 0. So this is definitely not true. Okay? That it is more than 9. How will a more than 9 graph supposed to look like? It will mean that it must be, the minimum point itself must be above 9 itself. Okay? So this is not true at all. You cannot square both sides. In an inequality, we can only do 4 operations, plus, minus, times, divide, or number. Okay? We don't times variable, plus variable, anything. We only do numbers only. Okay? So you cannot square both sides. Neither can you square root. Okay? All these square root, they are not operations, they are some form of functions. Okay? So how I deduce this is based on my understanding of x minus 3 squared itself. Okay? It must be positive. So because all these 3 components are positive, when you're multiplying positive numbers and subsequently dividing, overall, okay, your dy over dx must be more than 0. So we just conclude that therefore dy over dx more than 0, hence y is an increasing function. Okay? Question 2. In question 2 itself, how does it differ from question 1? Question 1 is to explain that it is going to be increasing. Now, the given information that you have is that f is already a decreasing function. What we want is to actually find the range of values of x. So at the end, your answer, okay, is some interval. Okay, I don't know how the interval looks like. Okay, where x is involved. Right? So your x can be such an interval, or else it can be such an interval. Okay, we know that it must be inequality at the end. Alright? So, given that fx equals to x squared times 2 minus 3x, we can find out what is the derivative. Either you do your product rule or you expand here first. Okay, either way, you will get this. We get negative 9x squared plus 4x. Okay, for the first derivative. Then because the question says that it is a decreasing function, that means that your first derivative must be less than 0. Okay? Then what do we do next? You cannot divide the x across, so the next step is also a problem for most of you. You never learn from your mistakes. Okay? Most of you can factorize. You tell me that I get factorize out the x, I'll have negative 9x plus 4, and then less than 0. And then very happily, you tell me x less than 0 or negative 9x plus 4 less than 0. Okay? This kind of mistake, please stop making already. Not true. Okay? So, what we have to do is that this is a quadratic inequality. We have to rely on our graph. Okay? And the problem is, how will our graph look like? Okay? So I intentionally choose this one for us to be aware that your coefficient of x squared in this case is negative. Should your graph look like this? It shouldn't. Okay? Your graph should in fact be a set face graph looking like that. Okay? So with this set face graph, our values over here will actually be 0 as well as 4/9. Okay, 0 and 4/9. Alternatively, okay, what we likely have learned in set 3, instead of having to deal with negative x squared, with negative coefficient, we usually see that if it's negative, we just divide or times throughout by negative and change it into positive. Okay, that will be probably one of the first things that we will usually do when it comes to quadratic inequality. Change to positive first, and then you factorize out as per usual. Then your graph will always be a happy face, and we will always have no problems with that. Okay, so it is only a happy face on the condition that x squared coefficient is actually positive, but in this case it is negative. Okay, so it should actually be this way, 0, 4/9. So continuing over here, less than 0, it will mean that it is actually these two tails over here, this range and this range. Okay, if you did what I wrote in red, more than 0 also is the same thing. Okay, it shouldn't differ. Right? Then from the graph, I will conclude that x is less than 0 or x is more than 4/9. It is a pure coincidence that when you split out and say this is less than 0 and this part less than 0, you end up getting this part. Okay, it is only a coincidence, but conceptually that's not correct at all. Okay? Okay? Questions? So that will be the answer. X less than 0 or x more than 4/9. Both must be there. Okay? So I hope that with question 1 and question 2, we can see the differences in what the question really wants. Okay, and know how to go about answering the question. Right? Okay, for question 3, I think in fact almost everyone got full 6 marks. Okay, but there are still that few minority that didn't get it right, so I just want to run through. Okay, so in question 3, given the equation y equals to 8 over x minus 2x, okay, you can re-express it into this manner for your convenience in differentiating. Differentiating it, you will get negative 8x over negative 2 minus 2 itself. Okay, so we want to find the equation of the normal to the curve at x equals to 1. For an equation of a normal, where normal is a line, okay, we are looking at having to use our y equals mx plus c. So therefore, I must have gradient of the normal as well as 1 point, okay, on the normal. Okay, so with dy over dx equals to this, it will help us in finding the gradient. Since we're looking at the point x equals to 1, our dy over dx value will come out to be negative 10. But negative 10 is the gradient of the tangent, not the normal. Okay, hence our gradient of normal is negative 1 divided by negative 10, which is 1 over 10. Okay, so for those few minority that didn't get full credit, it is slightly because of the gradient. Okay, then at x equals to 1 itself, we need to find out what is the y value. That will give us 6, because that will actually be the point on the line, okay, which is 1, 6. So the equation of the normal is y equals to 1 over 10 x plus c. Y is 6, x is 1. And c is 5 and 9 over 10. Therefore, the equation is 1 over 10x plus 5 and 9 over 10. Then in part 2, to find the coordinates of the points on the curve at which the tangent has gradient equals to negative 4. That means we're looking at dy over dx equals to negative 4. In other words, our dy over dx is negative 8. X to the power negative 2 minus 2 equals to negative 4. Or you can think about it in this manner. And then we solve to find out what is x. Okay, those that didn't get full credit for part 2, it is likely because you forgot to get the negative 2 as your answer. You only have 2 itself. Okay, so when x equals to 2, your y value, substituting back to the original curve equation, will be 0. Likewise, when x equals to negative 2, you will also find that coincidentally y is 0. Therefore, the 2 points are 2, 0 and negative 2, 0. Okay? Okay, let's look at question 4. This is the part, okay, that most of you still a little bit, okay, not that strong in. Question 4 on your connected rates of change. Okay, I really gave you a fundamental question, doesn't require all the similarity and all that kind of stuff. Okay, but it requires some memory work of remembering the formula. Let me just draw the diagram. Okay, so in this question, right, for your benefit, I gave a hint, okay, to say that the volume of a prism is equals to the uniform cross-sectional area times the height. Okay, firstly, I hope everyone knows what is a prism. Don't confuse prism with pyramid. Prism is something like your cube, cuboid, okay, or your cylinders. Prism essentially are things that have uniform cross-sectional area. That means if your bread comes in that shape, you cut it, okay, every single slice will look the same. Alright? So that is a prism. Pyramid is different. Pyramid is your this shape. Okay? Your pyramid looks something like that, whereby no matter how you angle your knife, all your slices of bread will look different. Okay? So please don't confuse yourself with prism and pyramid. Okay? Now, how do we go about proving or showing this formula itself? Okay, first of all, using the formula or the hint that I've given you, I would have expected that you are able to form the fundamental that volume equals cross-sectional area times the correct height. What is the cross-sectional area in this case? It is when you take the knife on top, you cut downwards, it is this triangle over here. Okay? So the area of the triangle will be half times base times height. Question mentioned that this triangle is equilateral. That means that if this side is x, all sides are x. So the base itself is also x. So base. Height of that triangle is actually the h that has been given to you. So half times x times h. Then the height for this entire prism, we are cutting in this manner, so we're going in this direction. Therefore, the height for this prism is 5. Okay? So this is something that I would have expected you to be able to deduce and start off with, okay, given that hint itself. Okay? But because my question wants it in terms of h, down here as an x, the problem is how do I change my x into h? Okay, there are two methods that you could do this. Some of you rely on the area of a triangle, while some of you use Pythagoras theorem. Okay, I'll do the one of Pythagoras theorem first. So using the triangle that we have, okay, because it is equilateral, if I slice it down halfway like this over here, equilateral in this case is all x, I will get two congruent triangles. In other words, this side and this side are equal, and hence down here is x over 2. Okay? And then after that over here is h. And in that congruent triangle, it is a right angle triangle itself. So I can apply my Pythagoras theorem to say that x squared equals to h squared plus x over 2 squared. Okay? And then we work on simplifying it. Such that I get x squared minus x squared over 4 equals to h squared. 1 whole minus a quarter, we get 3x squared over 4. Okay, but I want my x change into h, so I will have h squared times 4 divided by 3. So x squared equals to 4 over 3 h squared, and my x will be equals to the square root of that. this case, x must be positive. The negative one cannot be the case because these are all length that we're talking about. So the negative one, if you have the habit of writing it, you will have to reject it. Okay. Then, to simplify 4/3 h squared, your h squared can write on top. Square root top and bottom. Okay. On top itself, you will get 2h. Bottom is still a square root 3. Okay. Observe that in my final answer, we're trying to get our square root 3 on top. How does that happen? It happens through rationalization. Okay, so we get this. Okay, so now that we have already prepared the x in terms of h, I just sub it back in. Okay, so I can cancel away the 2's. I will now have my 5√3h squared over 3. Okay, so that is if you use Pythagoras theorem. Okay, of course, the steps could actually possibly be more condensed, may not be so long. I just try to emphasize certain things, that's why I had it more specific. Okay. Method 2, if you want to make use of area of triangle. Sorry, not area of triangle, I'm talking about trigonometry. Okay, so again, onto that area, the cross-sectional area itself, we notice that I can have isosceles triangle, equilateral triangle. Okay, but because it is an equilateral triangle, we know for a fundamental fact is that all the interior angles are 60 degrees. Okay? So they're all 60 degrees. So if I were to focus on one of the right angle triangle, okay, 60 degrees, I only want my h and x. It will be very confusing if you go and make use of this x over 2. So h is actually opposite 60 degrees, x is actually the hypotenuse in this right angle triangle. So sine 60 degrees equals to the opposite h and hypotenuse x. Okay? And in this case, you can very easily make x the subject, whereby x equals to h over sine 60 degrees. This is provided that you know what is sine 60 degrees. Okay? Sine 60 degrees, if you remember my hand, okay, your left hand one, so 60 degrees will actually be your ring finger, okay, and then for sine is 3 fingers, so square root 3 over 2, okay, from the left, right? Then after that you will get 2h over root 3. Again, it is about rationalizing. Okay, we also get the same thing. And then the final step is the same. Okay. So this step might actually seem shorter, but for it to be shorter, you must have the realization. Of course, okay? So if you did not recognize it's a right angle triangle, you did not know this is 60 degrees, none of this will fall into place. Okay? meter cube per minute. This actually refers to dV over dt, where V is the volume because it's in meter cube per minute, that means the time. Okay, so you need to recognize what you're given. Okay, then the question says find the rate at which the depth of water is increasing. So this is what we want to find. The depth of the water, that refers to H. Okay, that's given in the diagram itself. So we want to find the rate itself. That means that I want to find dH over dt. Okay. Then given dV over dt, and we want to find dH over dt. The missing connection is to have something that has both dV and dH inside it. And that could be arrived at since I know that V equals to 5 root 3 H squared over 3. I can differentiate this and arrive at 5 root 3 over 3 to bring down, and then we get the H. Some of you make your life a little bit complicated by using quotient rule over here. All of these are numbers, the denominator is not expression, so you can recognize that this is a coefficient in front of H squared, a number in front of H squared. So you just have to bring the 2 down, power minus 1. Okay? Then we get 10 root 3 over 3H. Right? Now, this is a part where I know that I've never addressed it. I just tell you that we shouldn't be doing this. Okay? I tell you that dH over dV is not equals to the opposite, if I were to use such a word, of dV over dH. You cannot say that dH over dV, okay, so I put this H upstairs here. You cannot say that dH over dV is equals to 3 over 10 root 3H itself. You cannot just happily flip the fraction like how you flip this, you know. Okay, it's not true. Alright? So this is not a true fact. Why? Because dH over dV, I must make this H in terms of V first. I must make H in terms of V, then I differentiate. But did you do the H in terms of V? You did not. Okay? So you cannot draw such a conclusion. Alright? Numerically, when you sub in the numbers, yes, it gives you that numerical value that seems to fall true. Okay? But logically speaking, in mathematical sense, we cannot say that. Okay? So with dV over dH already, the connection that we have is that dV over dt equals to dV over dH times dH over dt. Okay, so this is the formula that we need to have. Alright, then putting the things into place, dV over dt is 0.5, dV over dH is 10 root 3 over 3H. dH over dt is what I want to find. So dH over dt equals to 0.5 divided by this. Okay, so divide, flip the fraction, then times. Okay, then we will get 3 over 20 root 3H. So then now when H is equals to 0.1, okay, I will then sub in the value of 0.1 to get the answer of 0.886. Not forgetting your units. Okay? Many of you lost the units, which explains why I penalized units at the cover. Okay? Right? You really need to go and sort yourself out in terms of the connected rates of change. Okay, I'll go and dig out some more questions and then place it on Google Classroom for your practice. But do give me some time to do that. Yeah. 866 or 86. Oh, sorry, 866.
นะครับ